In the dim stillness of the tropical forest, where shafts of light pierce the canopy like narrow spotlights, a shimmer of gold appears suspended in the air. At first it seems like a trick of the sun, a stray reflection off dew, or perhaps the glint of a wet leaf. But as the camera draws closer, the illusion sharpens into reality. It is a web, vast and circular, glowing with a metallic sheen that makes it appear almost unnatural, as though crafted by some alien hand. This is the golden orb-weaver's trap, one of the most extraordinary pieces of architecture in the insect world, and a living testament to the evolutionary genius of spiders. The structure itself is deceptively simple. A frame stretches between branches, anchoring the design with silk that is as strong as steel by weight. From this frame radiate dozens of lines, like the spokes of a wheel, each connecting to the hub at the center where the spider waits. Over these radii, the spider has carefully layered a spiral of sticky silk, laid down in perfect spacing, each loop slightly elastic and tuned to vibration. The geometry is not random. By creating radii that spread evenly and spirals that expand outward in precise increments, the orb-weaver builds a trap that can absorb impacts without tearing. The golden threads are more than decorative. Their reflective properties make the web visible to certain insects, particularly those attracted to ultraviolet light. Nectar-seeking species like bees and moths mistake the glowing structure for the gleam of flowers. They approach with confidence, not hesitation, only to find themselves entangled in a lattice designed to flex, stretch, and hold fast. This adaptation solves one of the spider's greatest challenges. Many webs are invisible, but invisibility can be a liability. Birds, mammals, and larger insects blunder through them, breaking the structure and forcing the spider to waste precious energy rebuilding. The golden orb-weaver's solution is counterintuitive. By making the web conspicuous, she reduces the risk of accidental destruction. Birds see the glint and veer away. Smaller insects, attuned to ultraviolet patterns that guide them to nectar, cannot resist the lure. The web therefore functions both as a barrier and as a beacon, guiding prey to their capture rather than merely lying in wait. When an insect collides with the web, the silk demonstrates properties unmatched by any human-made fiber. Pound for pound, it is tougher than steel, able to absorb immense amounts of energy without breaking. Unlike rigid materials that snap under pressure, spider silk stretches, distributing the force of impact across the web's radial lines. Each strand works in harmony, like shock absorbers in a machine, ensuring that the insect does not simply bounce free. Even in storms, when branches whip in the wind and rain batters the canopy, the silk bends and sways without collapsing. And yet this miracle fiber is produced entirely within the body of a creature no larger than a coin, spun out of specialized glands and hardened in air. The orb-weaver's strategy does not end with construction. Silk is costly to produce, demanding proteins that the spider must gather through her diet. Rather than abandon her web after damage, she recycles it. At dawn or after a heavy storm, she may consume the old strands, breaking them down in her digestive system and converting them back into raw material. With these reclaimed proteins, she spins a new web, often in the very same spot, restoring her hunting platform with astonishing efficiency. In this way, the spider transforms destruction into renewal, embodying a cycle of resource management that engineers can only envy. The ecological role of the golden orb-weaver extends far beyond her immediate survival. By targeting nectar-seeking insects, her webs exert pressure on populations of bees, flies, and moths. In areas where orb-weavers are abundant, pollinator behavior shifts. Some species learn to avoid glowing patterns, refining their foraging strategies and altering the dynamics of plant reproduction. This interplay demonstrates how a single spider species can influence the flow of energy across an ecosystem, redirecting the movement of pollen and shaping the evolution of both prey and plant alike. Predation does not end with insects. The orb-weaver herself is preyed upon by birds, wasps, and parasitic flies that seek her eggs. To survive, she uses both camouflage and behavior. By day, her golden body blends with the web, making her appear part of the shining structure. By night, she becomes almost invisible, a silent silhouette against the dim forest. Some females even spin decoy clumps of silk and debris near the center of the web, creating false targets to mislead predators. These tactics underscore the reality that every adaptation is part of a larger arms race, where innovation in one species drives counter-innovation in another. For scientists, the golden orb-weaver's silk is more than a natural wonder. It represents a frontier of biomimicry, the effort to copy nature's engineering for human use. Attempts to manufacture spider silk have inspired fields from medicine to materials science. Artificial fibers modeled on orb-weaver silk could yield sutures that flex with tissue, ropes that withstand storms at sea, or even protective gear lighter and tougher than current armor. The challenge lies in replicating not just the chemical composition of silk proteins, but also the spider's method of spinning, which aligns molecules in ways no industrial process has yet matched. Researchers have inserted spider silk genes into bacteria, yeast, and even goats, hoping to mass-produce this extraordinary material, but the results remain inferior to the natural product. The orb-weaver, without blueprints or machinery, continues to outperform our most advanced laboratories. The reflective properties of the web have also drawn attention. Engineers study how the golden sheen interacts with ultraviolet light, exploring potential applications in pest control and lures. By mimicking the way the web deceives insects into approaching, we may one day design devices that guide harmful species away from crops, or that channel pollinators towards specific flowers to improve yields. In this way, the orb-weaver becomes not just a subject of admiration, but a collaborator in solving human challenges. As the camera lingers on the web in the slanting light of late afternoon, the golden strands glow as if lit from within. A bee approaches, its compound eyes detecting what it interprets as a rich blossom. It veers toward the shimmer, drawn by instinct older than memory. In an instant it collides, wings buzzing furiously against the sticky spiral. The web flexes but does not break. Vibrations ripple outward, reaching the hub where the orb-weaver waits. She moves with sudden precision, racing down the radii, immobilizing the struggling prey with a quick strike. What seems like brutality is, in truth, the relentless economy of survival. Energy harvested, energy recycled, energy transformed into silk once again. Through this scene, we witness the balance of nature distilled into a single design. The golden orb-weaver's web is more than a trap. It is an ecosystem in miniature, a stage where sunlight, physics, evolution, and deception converge. It glows not as decoration, but as a signal of deep evolutionary strategy, a reminder that the most advanced engineering on Earth is not found in factories or laboratories, but suspended silently between the trees. In the still air of a sunlit meadow, where the hum of insects is as constant as the breeze, a deeper vibration rises from among the blossoms. At first it is subtle, a low tremor hidden beneath the louder buzz of bees moving from flower to flower. But when the lens tightens on a single carpenter bee clamped to a bloom, the sound becomes clear. This is no ordinary foraging hum. It is a controlled pulse of energy, a resonance engine powered by the insect's own muscles. The bee locks her mandibles onto the flower's anther and begins to shake. Her thoracic muscles, usually used for flight, disengage from the wings and channel their power directly into vibration. The bloom shudders in response, releasing a golden mist of pollen that would otherwise remain sealed inside. This behavior, known as sonication or buzz pollination, is one of nature's most remarkable hidden strategies. Many flowers, including tomatoes, blueberries, and cranberries, do not yield their pollen freely. Their anthers are structured like small capsules, with pores at the tips that release pollen only under specific conditions. A gentle landing, or a casual probe with a tongue, will not suffice. Instead, these plants demand vibration, a precise frequency of shaking that pries open the pores and lets pollen stream out in abundance. Carpenter bees, with their robust bodies and powerful thoracic machinery, are among the masters of this art. By gripping tightly and vibrating at just the right pitch, they unlock the reward that other insects overlook. The mechanics of this process reveal an evolutionary partnership between plant and pollinator. The bee's thorax contains two massive sets of muscles, the dorsolongitudinal and the dorsoventral, that contract alternately to make the thorax oscillate. In flight, these contractions reverberate through the wing hinges, beating the wings with astonishing speed. But during sonication, the bee holds her wings still. The energy that would have driven flight is redirected inward, turning her body into a vibrating piston. By adjusting the rate of contraction, she can fine-tune the frequency of her buzz until it matches the resonant frequency of the flower. When the two align, efficiency peaks and pollen is expelled in bursts that dust her body like smoke from a chimney. From an evolutionary standpoint, this partnership ensures mutual benefit. The flower, which withholds its pollen from wasteful visitors, rewards only those pollinators capable of supplying the right vibration. The carpenter bee, in turn, gains access to a rich food source with little competition. As she moves from bloom to bloom, the grains of pollen clinging to her hairs are brushed onto receptive stigmas, completing the plant's reproductive cycle. This lock-and-key system, refined over millions of years, ties the fate of certain crops and wild plants directly to the presence of buzzing bees. Without them, yields plummet. In fact, in agricultural landscapes where carpenter bees or bumblebees are absent, farmers must often resort to artificial means, electric vibrators or mechanical shakers, to coax pollen from their crops. The ecology of carpenter bees extends beyond this singular act of pollination. Unlike honeybees that live in hives, carpenter bees are solitary architects, boring tunnels into dead wood or bamboo stalks to raise their young. These burrows, though sometimes maligned when found in wooden beams, play a role in recycling plant matter and creating microhabitats for other species. Each female excavates her gallery with her mandibles, carrying out sawdust and carving chambers where she provisions balls of pollen and nectar. An egg is laid upon each provision, and the tunnel is sealed with a wall of chewed wood fibers. Weeks later, the new generation emerges, already equipped with the powerful muscles and instincts required to continue the cycle of buzz pollination. Their solitary lifestyle also shapes their foraging strategies. Without the cooperative workforce of a hive, each carpenter bee must be efficient in gathering pollen. Buzz pollination offers exactly that advantage. A single well-executed vibration can release more pollen than dozens of casual visits by other insects. In ecosystems where flowering windows are brief and competition is fierce, this efficiency translates into survival. It also has ripple effects. Plants dependent on buzz pollination tend to synchronize their blooming, creating periods where carpenter bees become linchpins in the transfer of genetic material across entire landscapes. The timing of their activity can influence fruit set, seed dispersal, and the abundance of food available to birds and mammals later in the season. To an observer, the act itself is visually and acoustically striking. The bee presses close to the flower, her wings folded back, her body trembling so violently that the petals blur with the motion. A faint cloud of pollen bursts outward, catching the sunlight in glittering particles before settling onto her thorax. The sound resonates in the air like a miniature engine revving, distinct from the lighter buzz of casual flight. This is not incidental noise, it is precision in action, the tuning of muscle contractions to match the resonance of plant tissue. For every successful sonication, a partnership is reinforced, one that has shaped both bee and flower for untold generations. Scientists studying this behavior have uncovered surprising complexities. Not all carpenter bees buzz at the same frequencies, and not all flowers demand identical vibrations. Some plants require higher pitches, others lower. Individual bees seem capable of learning which frequencies are most effective, adjusting their efforts through trial and error. This adaptability suggests a level of sensory feedback more sophisticated than once believed. The bee may sense resistance through her mandibles or detect the amplitude of pollen release on her body, refining her technique in real time. Such flexibility ensures that carpenter bees can service a variety of flowers across changing environments. From the perspective of biomimicry, buzz pollination offers lessons with clear technological promise. Engineers investigating robotic pollinators look to carpenter bees as models for how to apply vibration with minimal energy. A micro-robot designed to mimic their action, could one day supplement natural pollinators in greenhouses or areas where bee populations have declined. Medical technology may also benefit. The principle of using finely tuned vibration to dislodge or extract materials has applications in targeted drug delivery or minimally invasive procedures. By studying how bees couple muscle contractions to structural resonance, researchers gain insights into designing efficient shakers, actuators, and resonance-based tools. Yet the carpenter bee's importance is not only mechanical, but cultural. In many regions, their presence signals the health of ecosystems that depend on both pollinators and flowering plants. Farmers who recognize their value often modify practices to protect nesting sites, leaving dead wood in hedgerows or providing untreated bamboo as habitat. These small actions ripple outward, enhancing crop yields, stabilizing wild plant populations, and supporting the larger web of species that rely on fruits and seeds. The buzzing vibration of a carpenter bee in a tomato field is thus not just an insect's act of feeding, but a cornerstone of food security and ecological resilience. As the afternoon wanes and the meadow shifts toward evening quiet, the carpenter bee continues her rounds. Each flower trembles beneath her grip, releasing its hidden treasure in response to her persistence. The sound is steady, purposeful, almost mechanical in its regularity. But behind this resonance lies millions of years of adaptation, an evolutionary collaboration between muscle and bloom, predator and resource, vibration and release. In her small buzzing body, the carpenter bee demonstrates how survival can hinge not on brute force alone, but on the ability to find harmony with the physical laws of the environment. What might seem like a simple tremor is, in truth, an intricate conversation between plant and pollinator. The bee speaks in vibrations, the flower answers in pollen. Together they write a dialogue of survival, one that sustains not only their own lineages, but the broader networks of life that depend on fruits and seeds. And in this dialogue we find not only ecological wonder, but inspiration for human ingenuity, a reminder that solutions to our most complex challenges may already exist, buzzing quietly in the flowers of a summer field. On the edge of a sunlit leaf, no larger than a fingernail, a hunter crouches. Its body is compact, its movements precise, its presence almost invisible against the shifting play of shadows. This is a jumping spider, a creature whose size belies the sophistication of its biology. For an animal scarcely heavier than a raindrop, it possesses a suite of adaptations that place it among the most remarkable predators of the micro-jungle. With a body tuned to hydraulics and a vision system that rivals advanced machines, it transforms a few millimeters of flesh into an instrument of speed, calculation, and accuracy. The first impression of a jumping spider is almost always its eyes. Unlike many arachnids whose vision is rudimentary, these spiders have evolved a complex optical system that seems designed for a creature many times larger. The two enormous central eyes, positioned at the front of the head, are deep and dark, like telephoto lenses. Their design provides telescopic acuity, allowing the spider to resolve details and judge distances with uncanny precision. Surrounding them are 6 smaller eyes, arranged in a crown that offers nearly panoramic coverage. Each pair has its own specialty. The lateral eyes excel at detecting motion, scanning the environment for disturbances. The rear eyes cover blind spots, alerting the spider to threats approaching from behind. Together, this 8-eye arrangement acts not as a collection of simple sensors, but as a layered vision stack, a biological computer that integrates multiple streams of information into a coherent picture of the world. To appreciate the sophistication of this system, one must understand the challenges of hunting at a tiny scale. For an insect-sized predator, the difference between success and failure can come down to fractions of a millimeter or milliseconds of timing. The telephoto central eyes provide the ability to lock onto prey with sharp focus, estimating both direction and distance. But sharp focus comes at the cost of field of view, leaving potential dangers unseen. This is where the side eyes come into play, detecting even the slightest flicker of movement across wide arcs. When an insect flies past, the side eyes detect the trajectory, cueing the central eyes to swing into position. Within the span of a heartbeat, the spider has processed visual data from multiple angles, integrated it into a 3-dimensional map, and decided on a course of action. What follows is no less extraordinary. Unlike most spiders, jumping spiders do not rely on webs to ensnare prey. They are active hunters, and their strategy depends on movement that defies their size. To launch themselves at prey many times their own body length away, they harness hydraulics. The spider's legs contain internal chambers filled with hemolymph, the equivalent of blood. By contracting powerful muscles in the cephalothorax, the spider forces this fluid into the legs, rapidly extending them like pistons. The sudden surge generates explosive power, propelling the spider into the air with speed that seems disproportionate to its small frame. The jump is not a blind leap. Moments before takeoff, the spider tethers itself to the substrate with a silk safety line, a lifeline that prevents catastrophic falls. With this dual system of hydraulic propulsion and silk insurance, the spider can attack with confidence, even across vertical gaps or precarious surfaces. The dynamics of these leaps reveal precision that goes beyond instinct. High-speed cameras show that jumping spiders adjust the angle, velocity, and arc of their leaps, depending on the distance and orientation of the target. They plan detours, repositioning themselves to approach prey from favorable angles. Some even take indirect routes, moving away from a target only to circle back along a more strategic path. Such behavior implies a form of spatial reasoning rare among invertebrates. These spiders appear to build mental maps of their environment, combining memory, vision, and hydraulic control into coordinated hunting strategies. Prey have little chance once within range. A fly, resting casually on a leaf, may never notice the crouched form a few centimeters away. The spider, however, has been watching intently, its central eyes locked on the insect, calculating the precise distance to its target. In a flash, the legs extend, the body arcs through the air, and the spider lands directly on the unsuspecting prey. The struggle is brief, silenced by venom delivered through sharp chelicerae. What to us appears as a sudden burst of violence is, in reality, the culmination of a cascade of sensory processing, fluid mechanics, and evolutionary fine-tuning. The ecological role of jumping spiders is far greater than their size suggests. By hunting flies, mosquitoes, and other small insects, they act as regulators of populations that, unchecked, could overwhelm habitats or spread disease. Unlike web-spinning spiders that passively intercept whatever blunders into their traps, jumping spiders make deliberate choices. They often prefer certain types of prey, adjusting their tactics depending on abundance. This active predation creates a selective pressure that shapes insect behavior in subtle ways. Flies that are quicker to detect motion or shift erratically may be more likely to survive, leading to evolutionary arms races that ripple across ecosystems. Beyond their role as hunters, jumping spiders are also subjects of fascination for researchers exploring sensory systems. The structure of their eyes has inspired designs for compact cameras and imaging devices. Their ability to integrate multiple visual inputs, detailed focus from one set of eyes, motion detection from another, resembles the layered systems of artificial intelligence now being applied to robotics. Engineers studying microdrones, which must navigate complex environments with limited processing power, look to jumping spiders as models. How does a creature with a brain smaller than a poppy seed process so much data so quickly? The answer lies not only in the arrangement of their eyes, but in the efficiency of their neural wiring, honed by countless generations of natural selection. Their hydraulic launching system offers lessons as well. Most human machines rely on rigid levers, springs, or combustion to generate motion. The jumping spider demonstrates how pressurized fluid can achieve explosive force with remarkable reliability. By mimicking the spider's system of muscular pumps and flexible chambers, engineers may develop miniature actuators for robots or medical devices. A machine that leaps without heavy motors, guided by compact optical sensors, could trace its lineage back to these tiny arachnid hunters. There is also an element of irony in the spider's evolutionary path. For most predators, greater power comes with larger size. Yet the jumping spider, small enough to balance on a blade of grass, wields adaptations that rival those of animals thousands of times its mass. It reminds us that evolutionary innovation does not always favor bigness or brute strength. Sometimes the most advanced solutions are scaled down to the limits of visibility, hidden in plain sight on the leaves and branches of familiar gardens. To watch a jumping spider hunt is to glimpse the interplay of physics, biology, and behavior in its purest form. The shimmer of its eyes in the sun, the taut stillness before the leap, the sudden arc of movement. Each detail reflects a survival strategy refined over millions of years. The spider is not merely reacting to stimuli, it is interpreting its world through a system of sensors and engines that mirror, in miniature, the machines we design for exploration and precision. As the camera follows the spider landing gracefully after another successful jump, silk tether glistening behind it like a faint line of safety, the forest returns to calm. The predator resumes its watch, scanning with its 8-eye computer, ready to calculate the next strike. Here, in the silence of the understory, the jumping spider embodies the principle that complexity need not require size. Power, intelligence, and innovation can fit within a creature so small that it could rest unnoticed on the tip of a finger, yet whose biology continues to inspire technologies reaching for the skies. The grasslands at dawn hold a stillness that is deceptive. Beneath the quiet, every stalk and leaf is alive with watchers and wanderers. A dew-laden stem bends slightly, carrying the weight of a creature whose appearance is both serene and unsettling. With forelegs folded in a posture reminiscent of supplication, the praying mantis waits. The pose seems contemplative, almost fragile, but behind it lies one of the most formidable predatory systems in the insect world. A body that blends stealth, speed, and a visual apparatus of unusual sophistication. Most insects perceive the world as a mosaic of light and movement, their compound eyes adapted for detecting motion but poor in detail. The mantis, however, has refined vision far beyond this baseline. Each of its large compound eyes contains thousands of ommatidia, but unlike the static gaze of a fly or dragonfly, the mantis has evolved a form of stereopsis, true three-dimensional depth perception. The forward-facing placement of its eyes creates overlapping fields of vision, allowing it to triangulate distances with remarkable accuracy. Among insects, this ability is almost unique. It enables the mantis to perceive not only that something is moving, but exactly where it is in space, an essential advantage for a predator that depends on sudden, precise strikes. A mantis can track prey with movements uncannily similar to a vertebrate predator. When a grasshopper or small beetle crosses its field of vision, the mantis tilts its head, adjusting the angle to refine depth calculations. Few insects can rotate their heads. The mantis can swivel nearly 180 degrees, scanning its environment with an almost bird-like fluidity. This motion is not idle curiosity, but a form of mathematical sampling. By altering head position, the mantis compares the parallax shift between its two eyes, building a geometric model of its surroundings. The resulting strike zone map is updated constantly, preparing the insect to launch its forelegs at precisely the right moment. Those forelegs are weapons hidden in plain sight. Serrated edges run along the tibia, forming spines that interlock with matching grooves in the femur. When folded, they resemble delicate arms at rest. When unleashed, they snap forward with astonishing speed, completing their arc in mere milliseconds. The combination of stereo vision and spined forelegs creates a predatory system that rarely fails. Prey caught within range is impaled and held fast, unable to escape the vice-like grip. The mantis then begins to feed, often while the prey is still alive, consuming it with methodical efficiency. From an ecological perspective, this brutality is simply function, energy acquired quickly with minimal waste. The hunting strategy of mantises varies with their habitat. In grasslands, their green or brown bodies blend seamlessly with stems, making them invisible until the moment of attack. In tropical forests, species mimic not only leaves but flowers, with petal-like limbs and bodies patterned in whites, yellows, and purples. These floral imposters wait near blossoms, luring pollinators that mistake them for nectar sources. When a butterfly approaches, guided by scent and color, the illusion becomes fatal. The mantis snaps forward, capitalizing on both its camouflage and its depth-calibrated strike. The ecological consequence is a selective pressure on pollinators, forcing them to refine their recognition of flowers. Thus, the mantis participates in shaping the sensory world of other species, an influence that extends across plant and insect evolution. What makes the mantis especially intriguing to scientists is not only its success as a predator, but the implications of its vision for technology. Human engineers have long sought to replicate stereopsis in machines, using paired cameras to calculate depth. But where computers must process vast amounts of data to approximate three-dimensionality, the mantis achieves it with a brain smaller than a grain of rice. Research has revealed that mantis stereopsis differs from human vision in a crucial way. It is tuned to motion. The insect system does not waste energy on static scenes. Only when objects move do the neural circuits engage, computing depth by comparing changes between the two eyes. For robotics, this offers a model of efficiency. Autonomous machines, particularly micro-drones with limited processing capacity, could benefit from mantis-style algorithms that compute depth only when relevant, conserving power while retaining accuracy. The mantis's reliance on vision also reveals vulnerabilities. At night, its hunting efficiency drops, as low light reduces contrast and limits stereo accuracy. To compensate, some species adopt ambush strategies, waiting motionless until prey comes within striking distance. Others become crepuscular, hunting at dawn or dusk when light is sufficient, but competition is reduced. These temporal adjustments illustrate the delicate balance between sensory adaptation and ecological niche. No single strategy guarantees success in all conditions, so the mantis, like many predators, survives by fine-tuning behavior to circumstance. Predators of mantises exploit these same sensory constraints. Birds, bats, and larger insects such as wasps are frequent threats. Mantises respond with both camouflage and startling displays. When threatened, some species spread their forelegs and wings, revealing bold patterns of eye spots or contrasting colors that had remained hidden. The sudden flash of what seems like a larger face can startle would-be attackers, buying precious seconds to escape. This bluffing tactic, while not foolproof, demonstrates the mantis's dual reliance on stealth and spectacle. It survives not only by blending in, but also by shocking enemies when concealment fails. From an ecological standpoint, mantises are generalists, feeding on a wide range of prey: flies, crickets, beetles, butterflies, even small vertebrates such as lizards or frogs, when opportunity arises. This broad diet makes them stabilizers in ecosystems, exerting control over multiple populations at once. Their presence can reduce outbreaks of herbivorous insects, indirectly protecting plant life. Yet their predation is not selective in the human sense of beneficial versus harmful species. Mantises will consume pollinators as readily as pests, a reminder that natural systems operate by energy transfer, not moral designations. The reproductive cycle of mantises introduces another layer of intrigue. Females often grow larger than males, and in some species, sexual cannibalism occurs. A female may consume her mate during or after copulation, gaining nutrients that increase her reproductive success. While not universal, this behavior illustrates the extremes of energy economy in insect life. By converting the body of the male into nourishment, the female ensures greater survival for her offspring. The egg case, or ootheca, is deposited on vegetation, containing dozens or even hundreds of embryos encased in a frothy secretion that hardens into a protective shell. When the young hatch, they emerge as miniature versions of adults, already equipped with grasping forelegs and ready to begin their own careers as hunters. In terms of biomimicry, the praying mantis continues to capture attention in fields as diverse as robotics, computer vision, and even military technology. The precision of its strikes has inspired algorithms for targeting systems that must operate quickly and accurately under variable conditions. The efficiency of its stereo vision, tuned to motion rather than static imagery, offers models for artificial intelligence systems that prioritize relevant data while ignoring noise. What emerges is a lesson in evolutionary minimalism, complex outcomes achieved through streamlined processes, honed by survival rather than designed by excess. To observe a mantis at work is to witness a convergence of stillness and violence, contemplation and execution. The folded pose, so evocative of prayer, is in fact a calculation, a patient wait for the geometry of the world to align. The head tilts, the eyes lock, the strike zone is mapped. Then, in less than the blink of a human eye, the quiet transforms into action. Prey vanishes into grasping limbs, and the mantis resumes its vigil, as if nothing has occurred. In these moments, we see not just an insect, but an equation brought to life. Vision plus distance, speed plus accuracy, concealment plus deception. The mantis is a mathematician of survival, balancing variables in the shifting environment of grass, leaf, and flower. Its stereo eyes, its rotating head, its lightning strike, all are pieces of a formula that has endured for millions of years. For humans seeking to build machines that see, calculate, and act with similar efficiency, the mantis remains both a challenge and a guide. As the sun climbs higher and shadows shorten, the mantis remains on its perch, silent and watchful. Its world is mapped not in human abstractions but in immediate geometry, the angle of a leaf, the flicker of a wing, the distance to a moving form. Here, in the calm of the meadow, evolution has sculpted one of the most extraordinary predators of the insect realm. It is not size or strength that secures its survival, but the union of stereo vision, strike zone mathematics, and evolutionary patience, a trinity of adaptations that continues to inspire both awe and imitation.
The forest after fire is a landscape of paradox. Charred trunks rise like blackened pillars, the ground is coated in ash, and the silence is broken only by the creak of cooling wood and the distant calls of birds returning to assess the damage. To human eyes, it appears desolate, a wasteland stripped of life, yet hidden within the smoke and ruin, opportunity stirs. From the air, a shimmer of metallic green and bronze arcs downward. The insect that lands on the still warm bark glitters like a fragment of living treasure. It is a jewel beetle, its armor catching the light in flashes of emerald and copper, an illusion created not by pigment, but by microscopic structures that bend and scatter wavelengths. This iridescence is its signature, but its true marvel lies in a sense invisible to us, an ability to detect fire itself. Among the hundreds of jewel beetle species spread across the globe, a few have evolved a singular alien gift. They can see heat. Nestled on their thorax are tiny sensory pits, capable of registering infrared radiation. While human vision spans the narrow band of visible light, these beetles extend their perception into wavelengths associated with heat, allowing them to detect forest fires from astonishing distances. Some studies suggest they can sense burning wood more than 50 kilometers away, homing in on smoke and warmth with precision. This capacity makes them among the few animals on Earth to specialize not in avoiding fire, but in seeking it out. To understand why, one must consider the reproductive strategy of these beetles. Jewel beetle larvae are wood borers. They thrive within the dead and decaying tissues of trees, tunneling through softened timber as they feed and develop. Fire, though catastrophic to living forests, creates the perfect nursery. When flames scorch a tree, its defenses collapse. Sap ceases to flow, resins no longer deter invaders, and the wood becomes susceptible to colonization. For beetles, this is opportunity. By laying eggs in freshly burned timber, they secure a food-rich environment free of the toxic compounds that living trees use to repel infestation. The heat itself accelerates development, creating conditions where larvae can thrive and grow with minimal competition. The sensory pits that make this possible are marvels of biological engineering. Lined with infrared receptors, they are finely tuned to detect temperature gradients. Experiments have shown that the beetles can register differences of only a few degrees above ambient, an extraordinary feat for creatures so small. Unlike snakes, which also sense infrared but use it to target prey, jewel beetles use their thermal vision for navigation. They combine infrared input with chemical cues from smoke and volatile compounds released by burning wood, triangulating their way to freshly scorched forests with an accuracy rivaling modern instruments. The beetle does not merely stumble upon opportunity, it is guided there by a sensory map written in heat.
Once at the burn site, the beetle's iridescent armor plays a secondary role. Its structural colors, created by nanoscale layers in the cuticle, may serve as camouflage against the dazzling reflections of ash and char. To birds scanning the blackened landscape, the shifting greens and bronzes blend with the play of light on soot and leaves, making the beetle less conspicuous despite its brilliance. The same structures that dazzle human collectors thus serve as survival tools, shaped by evolution not for beauty, but for invisibility in environments of stark contrast. The jewel beetle's reliance on fire raises ecological questions. While flames destroy habitats, they also reset ecosystems, clearing space for renewal. By exploiting this process, the beetle becomes an agent of succession. Its larvae accelerate decomposition, breaking down burned wood and releasing nutrients back into the soil. This prepares the ground for new plant growth, linking the beetle's reproductive strategy to the long-term recovery of the forest. In this way, what appears as opportunism is also participation in the ecological cycle of disturbance and regrowth. Predation adds further complexity. Beetles swarming to fresh burns are vulnerable to birds, lizards, and opportunistic mammals drawn by the same cues of smoke and warmth. Yet the beetle's timing grants them advantage. By arriving quickly, often while embers still glow, they exploit windows when other competitors have not yet mobilized. Their tolerance for heat and their rapid colonization secure resources before rivals can overwhelm them. In this sense, fire is not simply a hazard, but a competitive filter, a disturbance that clears the field, leaving space for those uniquely adapted to claim it. For humans, the jewel beetle's infrared sensitivity offers inspiration. Engineers have long studied these insects as models for sensors capable of detecting heat with minimal energy. Military applications envision systems that mimic beetle pits to locate fires or even the infrared signatures of engines. Environmental scientists see potential in devices modeled on beetle biology that could monitor forest health or detect early signs of combustion before flames spread. Unlike electronic sensors that require power and complex calibration, the beetle demonstrates how natural evolution achieves sensitivity with elegant simplicity, a passive system that reads heat from the environment without generating it. The iridescent armor itself also draws scientific attention. Structural coloration, unlike pigment-based hues, does not fade with age. It is produced by interference patterns as light passes through microscopic ridges and layers. By studying these nanostructures, material scientists hope to design surfaces that reflect specific wavelengths without chemical dyes, creating paints or coatings that never lose color. The beetle thus serves as both a biological marvel and a blueprint for innovation, linking the shimmer of its body to technologies of durability and sustainability. Yet the jewel beetle's relationship with fire is not without controversy. In some regions, swarms of beetles descending on burned forests can overwhelm timber reserves, boring into wood destined for human use. Their presence complicates efforts to harvest fire-killed trees for industry. This tension highlights the complex intersections of human economies and natural cycles. What for the beetle is survival and reproduction becomes, for humans, an economic burden. In this conflict, the beetle reveals the broader truth that adaptation is not inherently aligned with human priorities, but follows the impartial path of ecological opportunity. The life cycle of these beetles underscores their resilience. Eggs laid in the charred bark hatch into larvae that spend months or years tunneling through wood, hidden from predators by both camouflage and inaccessibility. Pupation occurs within the timber, and when adults finally emerge, they take to the air glittering, as though fire itself had forged jewels. Their iridescence, so striking in sunlight, is a reminder of the hidden complexity within even the smallest fragments of the burned forest. Watching them alight on smoking trunks, one is struck by the irony. What most creatures flee, the jewel beetle seeks. Its world is defined not by avoidance of danger, but by its embrace. The beetle thrives where heat still lingers, where the smell of carbon hangs heavy, where the land itself seems hostile. And yet from this hostility comes the possibility of life renewed. The beetle is not merely scavenging from disaster, It is part of the larger arc in which fire becomes both destroyer and creator, a force that erases and rewrites the fabric of ecosystems. In the shimmer of its armor and the invisible reach of its infrared gaze, the jewel beetle embodies a fusion of beauty and function, spectacle and survival. To follow it into the aftermath of flames is to witness how evolution finds opportunity in destruction, crafting senses attuned not to safety, but to the margins of chaos. For humans, the lesson is humbling. The fires we fear, the burns we label as catastrophe, are also stages on which life rehearses its endless capacity to adapt. And among the first to arrive, glittering like embers that will not fade, is the jewel beetle, a fire finder, a colonizer of ashes, and a reminder that survival often lies in embracing what others abandon. On the edge of a meadow in spring, when grasses sway under the weight of morning dew and the air hums with pollinators, a flash of red breaks the green monotony. A ladybug, its polished dome speckled with black, crawls slowly across a blade of grass. To most observers, it is a familiar symbol of gentleness and good fortune, a benign presence often welcomed in gardens for its appetite for aphids. But beneath this glossy armor lies a feat of bioengineering that rivals any achievement of human design. When the moment comes to fly, the ladybug reveals a secret concealed under its tiny shell. A pair of delicate wings folded with the precision of origami, ready to unfurl in an instant and carry it away. At rest, the ladybug appears incapable of flight. Its elytra, the hardened forewings that give it its iconic spotted appearance, are short and rigid, offering protection rather than lift. The actual flight wings, long and membranous, remain hidden beneath, compressed into a space that seems impossibly small. The challenge is one of geometry, how to store surfaces several times the size of the insect's body within a casing no larger than a fingernail. Evolution's solution is folding. Through a combination of flexible joints, elastic veins, and hinge-like structures, the wings fold into compact packages, stowed safely until needed. The act of unfolding takes place in less than the blink of an eye, a transformation that shifts the ladybug from armored crawler to airborne hunter. The mechanics of this process are intricate. The wing itself is reinforced by veins that serve both as structural supports and as springs. When folded, these veins lock into overlapping positions, holding the wing in a compact state beneath the elytra. Upon deployment, stored elastic energy is released, snapping the folds open along predetermined lines. The unfolding is guided not by muscles in the wing itself, but by the architecture of the material, much like a paper crane opening along its creases. Once extended, the veins stiffen, providing rigidity for flight. When the insect lands, the reverse occurs. The veins bend and flex, guiding the wing back into its tucked form without tearing or tangling. This system offers multiple advantages. By hiding its delicate wings under armored covers, the ladybug protects them from weather, abrasion, and predation while on the ground. Unlike butterflies, whose exposed wings are vulnerable to damage, the ladybug can crawl, burrow, and squeeze through foliage without risking its ability to fly. The rapid unfolding mechanism ensures that the insect can take to the air quickly, escaping danger or moving to new foraging grounds without delay. The efficiency of the fold-stow-deploy cycle is so high that it has drawn attention from engineers seeking to design machines that require compact but reliable deployment systems. From an ecological perspective, this adaptation allows ladybugs to exploit a dual lifestyle. On the ground, they serve as voracious predators of soft-bodied insects, clambering over leaves to harvest aphids, mites, and scale insects. In the air, they disperse across wide territories, seeking new feeding grounds or mates. This combination of armored crawling and swift flight has made them one of the most successful beetle lineages, with thousands of species spread across nearly every continent. Their wings are not simply tools of locomotion, but the foundation of their ecological versatility. The role of the ladybug in ecosystems extends far beyond its mechanical ingenuity. By consuming aphids in vast numbers, they act as natural regulators of pest populations. A single adult may devour dozens in a day, while a larva can consume even more. This predatory pressure helps maintain balance in agricultural and natural systems, preventing outbreaks that could devastate crops or wild plants. In this context, the wings become instruments not only of survival for the beetle, but of stability for entire ecosystems. The ability to fly ensures that ladybugs can locate aphid colonies as they emerge, moving swiftly between hotspots of abundance. Their mobility is thus integral to their ecological function. The folding wings also shed light on principles of energy efficiency. Unlike birds or bats, insects cannot afford to carry excess muscle or tissue. Every adaptation must be lightweight and multifunctional. The ladybug's wings exemplify this economy. The same structures that provide stiffness during flight become flexible hinges during folding, eliminating the need for separate mechanisms. The vanes act simultaneously as springs, hinges, and supports, their properties shifting depending on how force is applied. Such multifunctionality is a hallmark of insect design, a reminder that evolution rarely wastes material or function. For scientists and engineers, the ladybug's origami wings have become a source of inspiration. In robotics, researchers study the folding patterns to design compact drones that can carry large propellers or solar panels within small frames. The principle of rapid deployment without motors has been applied to concepts for medical stents, which must expand inside blood vessels without bulky mechanisms. Even space technology has looked to beetles for guidance. Solar arrays designed to unfold seamlessly in orbit borrow from the elastic veins and preset creases of ladybug wings. Each application reflects a recognition that solutions perfected in nature can be repurposed for human innovation, often outperforming purely mechanical designs. The ladybug's flight, while not graceful compared to butterflies or dragonflies, is nonetheless effective. Once airborne, its wings beat rapidly, keeping it aloft in a steady hum. The elytra, raised above the back, serve as stabilizers, preventing wobble. Flight allows the beetle to cross fields, climb altitudes, and disperse over kilometers in search of prey or breeding sites. For migratory species, wings enable seasonal movements across entire regions, ensuring survival when local food supplies dwindle. The very fact that a creature so heavily armored can also achieve sustained flight is testimony to the elegance of its wing-folding design. Predators, however, constantly test the limits of this adaptation. Birds, spiders, and even ants prey on ladybugs, forcing them to balance mobility with defense. Here again, the wings play a role. By covering them with the bright red elytra, the beetle advertises its toxicity. Ladybugs secrete foul-tasting alkaloid compounds, and their coloration warns predators of the unpleasant experience of consuming one. The folded wings, hidden beneath this warning system, remain secure until needed. It is a seamless integration of defense and utility, in which protection of the wings is both chemical and mechanical. Yet despite their effectiveness, wings can be damaged. Torn veins, frayed edges, or improper folding can reduce flight efficiency. Ladybugs mitigate this risk through redundancy. While each wing is fragile, the elytra reduce wear, and frequent replacement occurs across generations. By producing multiple broods within a season, populations offset individual losses with sheer reproductive abundance. The resilience of the species thus rests not only in the durability of individuals, but in the collective persistence of their numbers. In the shimmering meadow, the ladybug finally spreads its wings. The elytra lift, revealing the translucent membranes beneath. In a blur, folds unfold, hinges snap into place, and veins stiffen. The insect takes off, rising above the grasses in a display of engineering hidden from view until this moment. What seems like a simple act of flight is, in truth, the culmination of countless evolutionary refinements. A system of origami folds, elastic energy, and compact storage perfected over millions of years. To witness this transformation is to glimpse the genius of natural design. In the ladybug's wings, we see principles that cross boundaries between biology and technology, ecology and engineering. They are not only tools for survival, but lessons in efficiency, resilience, and adaptability. Whether inspiring drones that fold into pockets, stents that expand within arteries, or solar arrays that blossom in orbit, the ladybug's origami wings remind us that the answers to complex challenges often rest in the simplest of forms, wings folded under a spotted shell, waiting for the moment to open. Night settles over the forest, and with it comes a different rhythm of life. By day, the canopy belongs to birds and butterflies, but when darkness cloaks the understory, the stage is ceded to heavier, armored forms. On the rough bark of a tree trunk, two shapes emerge from shadow, glossy, hulking, and crowned with horns that gleam faintly in the moonlight. These are rhinoceros beetles, titans of the insect realm, whose bodies resemble miniature tanks.
Yet for all their size and armored bulk, their power lies not merely in strength, but in a secret hidden within the very material of their horns. A lightweight lattice, a foam core architecture that defies expectations of weight and fragility. The rhinoceros beetle's horn is a marvel of evolutionary engineering. Rising from the head or thorax, depending on species, the structure can be longer than the rest of the beetle's body. Its silhouette, arcing upward in sweeping curves or branching prongs, has earned comparisons to the horns of oxen, antlers of deer, and even the battle axes of ancient warriors. At first glance, the horn appears massive and unwieldy, a burden for an insect already clad in heavy armor. Yet when examined under the microscope, its inner structure tells another story. Beneath the hard cuticle lies a foam-like network of chitin filled with microscopic voids that reduce weight without compromising strength. This internal lattice resists bending by distributing force along multiple directions, much like the honeycomb cores or lattice panels used in aerospace engineering. The evolutionary advantage of such a design becomes clear during combat. Rhinoceros beetles are not predators. They feed mostly on fruit, sap, and decaying plant matter. Their horns are not weapons for hunting, but for competition, used in battles between males over access to mates. These duels unfold in slow, deliberate wrestling matches. A male encounters a rival on a tree trunk where a female is feeding, and the contest begins. Horns lock, bodies strain, and the objective is not to pierce or wound, but to pry and flip. Each beetle attempts to lever its opponent off the bark, toppling him to the ground and eliminating him from the competition. The battles may look clumsy, yet they are precise contests of leverage and stamina. The shape of the horn determines tactics. Species with long, curved horns use them to hook beneath rivals, lifting them with surprising force. Others wield shorter, bifurcated horns that function more like grappling tools, pinching and pushing. Research has shown that size alone is not the only determinant of success. The curvature and proportions of the horn influence leverage, giving some males an advantage even if their overall body mass is smaller. In this way, natural selection has shaped not just the length, but the architecture of horns, rewarding designs that optimize flipping power while maintaining structural integrity. The foam core structure plays a critical role here. A solid horn of equal size would be heavy and energetically costly to carry, impairing the beetle's ability to fly or maneuver. By reducing mass while retaining stiffness, the internal lattice allows the beetle to brandish an impressive weapon without collapsing under its own burden. It is the same principle that human engineers employ in lightweight beams, surfboards, and even airplane wings, where strength must be maximized while weight is minimized. In essence, the rhinoceros beetle carries on its head a natural lesson in materials science, perfected by millions of years of evolutionary trial and error. Victory in these duels carries profound consequences. Females often choose to mate with males that hold their ground, and losers are denied opportunities to pass on their genes. This selective pressure drives the maintenance of horn size and strength across generations. Yet the system is not absolute. In some environments, smaller males adopt alternative strategies, avoiding confrontation altogether. Instead of battling, they sneak around the edges of a fight, mating with females while the larger males are distracted. This balance of strategies illustrates the complexity of sexual selection, where brute force and cunning coexist as parallel evolutionary paths. The rhinoceros beetle's body offers further surprises. Despite being one of the heaviest insects in the world, some species capable of lifting loads over 100 times their own body weight, they remain capable flyers. Their wings, hidden under thick elytra, unfold with practiced precision,
lifting even these armored giants into the night sky. Once aloft, they navigate by scent and moonlight, seeking fruiting trees or sap flows where they feed and gather. The ability to fly despite such bulk again highlights the efficiency of the horn's foam core design. By shaving unnecessary weight, the beetle retains aerial mobility while wielding one of the most extravagant structures in the insect world. Ecologically, rhinoceros beetles play important roles in nutrient cycling. Feeding on decaying wood, fermenting sap, and fallen fruit, they accelerate decomposition, returning nutrients to the soil. Their larvae, massive grubs that tunnel through rotting logs, are among the primary agents of wood breakdown in many forests. These hidden laborers recycle cellulose and lignin, materials otherwise resistant to decay, making them accessible to fungi, bacteria, and ultimately to plants. In this sense, the beetle's contribution extends far beyond its dramatic duels. It is a silent engineer of ecosystems, a participant in the endless turnover of forest life. The beetle's enemies add another dimension to its survival. Birds, mammals, and parasitic wasps prey on both adults and larvae. The beetle's armor provides some protection, but its bulk makes it vulnerable when flipped or pinned. To compensate, many species adopt nocturnal habits, reducing exposure to daytime predators. Their dark, glossy bodies blend with the night, and their activity peaks during humid, moonlit hours when conditions favor both feeding and mating. This circadian rhythm reflects a balance between opportunity and risk, another example of how behavior and physiology interlock in the service of survival. Humans, too, have long noticed rhinoceros beetles, sometimes revering them, sometimes exploiting them. In parts of Asia, they are celebrated in folklore as symbols of strength and endurance. In some regions, children collect them for staged battles, admiring their wrestling contests as miniature gladiatorial displays. Farmers have also encountered them as pests, since certain species bore into sugarcane or oil palms, damaging crops. Yet even here, their biology holds potential lessons. By studying the structure of their horns and exoskeletons, materials scientists aim to design lighter yet tougher composites. The beetle, often dismissed as a garden nuisance, may one day inspire stronger prosthetics, resilient building materials, or energy-efficient load-bearing structures. The spectacle of two rhinoceros beetles locked in combat beneath the stars captures the essence of their evolutionary story. The scraping of horns against bark, the slow push and sudden topple, the fall of the loser to the forest floor, it is drama written in the language of biomechanics. Each movement demonstrates principles of leverage, friction, and material science, played out not in laboratories, but in the living theater of the night. Their foam core horns, at once massive and light, are both tools of battle and emblems of evolutionary compromise, strong enough to withstand strain, yet light enough to permit flight. As dawn approaches, the beetles retreat, slipping back into bark crevices and soil, their duels concluded until the next nightfall. The forest, seemingly quiet again, carries within its trunks and soil the legacy of their struggles. Nutrients recycled, genes passed on, rivals defeated, all trace back to the improbable strength of a hollow horn. For those who study them, rhinoceros beetles are reminders that nature often hides its most sophisticated designs within the most familiar forms. The foam core lattice in a beetle's horn echoes the same engineering principles that humans use in skyscrapers and spacecraft, revealing that the line between insect survival and human innovation is not as distant as it may appear. In the dark of the forest, illuminated by nothing more than moonlight, rhinoceros beetles enact their rituals of strength and persistence. Their horns, glittering like dark ivory, tell a story of survival not through sheer weight but through the elegance of design. It is a story that bridges biology and engineering, reminding us that strength, in its truest form, is rarely solid. More often, it is hollow, latticed, and filled with the wisdom of efficiency. The forest in summer carries a sound unlike any other season. It begins as a faint tremor, a vibration on the edge of perception, then builds into a resonant wall of noise that seems to come from everywhere at once. This is the chorus of cicadas, an ancient soundtrack of heat and growth, amplified by the bodies of insects no larger than a thumb. To many, the noise is overwhelming, almost mechanical in its intensity.
Yet to understand it is to glimpse one of nature's most astonishing acoustic adaptations, a sound cannon hidden in a fragile abdomen, capable of generating calls that rival jet engines in intensity when measured by size. The machinery of cicada song lies in a pair of tymbals, thin, ribbed membranes tucked into the sides of the abdomen. When powerful muscles contract, they buckle the tymbals inward with a snap, then release them outward with another. Each snap produces a pulse of sound. The speed of these contractions, occurring dozens of times per second, transforms discrete clicks into a continuous buzz. The cicada's abdomen acts as a resonating chamber, amplifying the vibrations much like the body of a guitar amplifies the pluck of its strings. The result is a call that can exceed 100 decibels, among the loudest biological sounds relative to body size. For perspective, standing next to a chorus of cicadas can be comparable to standing beside a motorcycle engine. This extraordinary volume serves a singular purpose: communication. Males call not for defense or aggression, but to attract mates. Each species has its own distinctive song, a coded message that females recognize among the cacophony. In forests where dozens of species emerge simultaneously, this specificity is vital. A female responds only to the rhythm and pitch of her own species, ensuring reproductive fidelity. The sheer intensity of the sound allows it to travel across dense vegetation, carrying through the humid air of summer, where visibility is limited. For the male, volume is advertisement. The louder and more persistent the call, the greater the chance of drawing a mate before predators intervene. Predation is an ever-present risk in this display. Birds, bats, spiders, and even parasitic wasps are drawn to the conspicuous calls. To sing is to reveal one's location, and yet cicadas persist, relying on numbers rather than stealth. Many species synchronize their emergences, rising in massive broods that overwhelm predators with abundance. This strategy, known as predator satiation, ensures that while thousands are consumed, millions survive to reproduce. In some regions, periodic cicadas emerge in cycles of 13 or 17 years, timing their appearances so precisely that predators cannot rely on them as a stable food source. These mathematical intervals, prime numbers that minimize overlap with predator life cycles, are among the most elegant examples of evolutionary timing in the natural world. The cicada's adaptations, however, extend beyond sound. Its wings conceal another marvel of evolution, one that operates on a scale invisible to the naked eye. Covering the membrane of each wing are forests of nanopillars, tiny, spike-like structures that form a lethal surface for microbes. When bacteria land on the wing, their cell membranes stretch across the nanopillars until they rupture, torn apart by mechanical stress. This effect requires no chemicals, no secretions, no energy from the insect. It is pure physics, the result of surface architecture honed by natural selection. To bacteria, a cicada wing is a field of nanoblades, an environment where survival is impossible. The implications of this adaptation are profound. Engineers and medical researchers study cicada wings as templates for antimicrobial surfaces that could revolutionize healthcare. By mimicking the nanopillar pattern, it may be possible to create hospital equipment, implants, or packaging that resists bacterial colonization without antibiotics. Such technology could help combat antibiotic resistance, one of the most pressing challenges in modern medicine. Here, the wing of a humble insect offers a pathway towards solutions that elude human innovation. The duality of cicada adaptations, sound amplification and antimicrobial surfaces, highlights a broader principle of insect survival. Evolution rarely produces traits in isolation. Instead, it weaves multiple solutions into single forms. The timbal and abdomen create acoustic dominance, while the wings provide not only flight, but passive defense against microbial infection. Together they form a body that thrives in environments filled with predators, pathogens, and competition. From an ecological perspective, cicadas play pivotal roles. Their emergence deposits vast amounts of biomass into ecosystems. Adults provide food for predators, while their carcasses, left after mating and death, enrich the soil with nitrogen. Nymphs, which spend years underground feeding on xylem sap from plant roots, aerate the soil through their tunneling.
This constant movement of nutrients and air benefits trees and understory plants alike. Though often perceived as a nuisance by humans, cicadas are in fact engineers of ecosystem function, connecting soil, vegetation, and predators through their unique life cycles. The physiological demands of sound production also reveal intriguing details about cicada biology. Generating continuous high-volume calls requires enormous muscular power and metabolic energy. To sustain this, cicadas consume sap rich in water and sugars, fueling their efforts through steady intake rather than rapid predation. Their bodies are adapted for endurance rather than efficiency, turning the energy of sunlight, absorbed first by trees, into acoustic energy that saturates the forest. The sound of cicadas is, in a sense, the voice of the forest itself, transformed from light into vibration through the medium of an insect. Despite their remarkable adaptations, cicadas face challenges in a changing world. Habitat loss, pesticide use, and climate shifts threaten the delicate timing of their emergences and the availability of host plants. Because their life cycles are so long, stretching over a decade underground for some species, disruptions can reverberate across generations. A brood missed by predators one year may emerge into a fragmented landscape the next, finding fewer mates or suitable trees. Their survival, like their song, depends on harmony with the rhythms of the environment. The cicada's sound cannon also offers lessons for technology. Low-power speakers, efficient resonators, and sound amplification systems can all draw from the principles encoded in the insect's tymbals and abdomen. By using structural resonance rather than electrical amplification, cicadas achieve output far greater than their size would suggest. If applied to human devices, these principles could yield speakers or communication tools that deliver high volume with minimal energy, echoing the efficiency of insect acoustics. To watch a cicada in full song is to witness transformation. Its body, seemingly fragile, vibrates with intensity, abdomen pulsing as the timbals snap rhythmically. The sound radiates outward, filling the air, overwhelming even the rustle of leaves and calls of birds. On its wings, invisible to all but the microscope, nanopillars stand guard, ensuring that this delicate machine remains free of microbial assault. Every detail, from the macroscale roar to the nanoscale defense, speaks to an evolutionary logic that has perfected survival through noise, timing, and structural ingenuity. As dusk falls and the chorus swells to its peak, the forest resonates with the combined efforts of thousands. Each call is an individual signal, yet together they form a symphony that defines summer itself. To human ears it may be relentless, but to the cicadas it is life, a broadcast of presence, a declaration of readiness, a gamble against the risks of predation.
Beneath the overwhelming volume lies a delicate balance between conspicuousness and survival, between microbial threat and nanoscale armor, between the silence of the soil and the deafening proclamation of emergence. The cicada, often dismissed as noise, embodies a union of extremes: fragile yet powerful, ancient yet innovative, vulnerable yet resilient. Its timbal song and nanoblade wings remind us that the most extraordinary technologies often arise not from our laboratories, but from the overlooked details of natural history. And in the height of summer, when the air itself seems to vibrate with sound, the cicada's legacy is impossible to ignore. The stillness of a humid evening is broken not by birdsong or wind, but by a faint, high-pitched whine. To human ears it is unmistakable, a sound that provokes irritation long before its source becomes visible. Hovering just above the skin, its wings beating more than 600 times per second, is a mosquito, a creature reviled as nuisance and feared as vector of disease, yet also one of the most extraordinary microengineers in the natural world. Its method of feeding is an act of surgical precision, performed with an instrument so sophisticated that medical science is still working to replicate it. A multi-part proboscis designed to pierce flesh and draw blood with minimal sensation. At first glance, the mosquito's mouthparts seem like a simple needle. In truth, they are a bundle of 6 separate stylets, encased within a flexible sheath. 2 are serrated maxillae, functioning as miniature saws that slice through skin with alternating strokes. Alongside them are 2 mandibles that stabilize the cut,
keeping the bundle aligned as it moves deeper. The labrum, a central tube, follows the path carved by the saws, slipping between cells and tissues with remarkable ease. Finally, the hypopharynx delivers saliva into the wound, its chemicals numbing pain receptors, dilating blood vessels, and preventing clotting. What emerges is not a puncture forced by brute force, but a carefully orchestrated operation, each component playing a role in reducing resistance and sensation. The key to the mosquito's stealth lies in this modular design. By dividing the task of penetration among multiple stylets, the insect reduces pressure on any single point, lowering the likelihood of triggering pain receptors concentrated in the skin. The serrations of the maxillae allow them to soar rather than push, sliding between collagen fibers instead of crushing them. The labrum's slender tip bends and probes, guided by microscopic sensory hairs that detect when a blood vessel is reached. This is not blind stabbing but targeted exploration, as if the mosquito were feeling its way into the circulatory system with tactile precision. Once the vessel is breached, saliva transforms the wound into a continuous fountain. Containing anticoagulants, vasodilators and enzymes, it ensures that blood flows freely into the labrum's channel. The chemistry is complex, fine-tuned over millions of years of coevolution with vertebrate hosts. Without it, clots would quickly block the feeding tube, and the insect would need to pierce again, risking detection. With it, the flow is steady, and the mosquito can feed undisturbed, withdrawing far more than its tiny body seems capable of carrying. Only after it departs does the host's immune system react, flooding the site with histamines that cause the familiar swelling and itch. The evolutionary pressures shaping this feeding system are immense. Mosquitoes depend on blood not for their own survival, but for reproduction. Female mosquitoes require the proteins in blood to produce eggs. Males, by contrast, feed solely on nectar. This sexual divergence explains why only females bite humans and why their proboscis is such a finely tuned instrument. Reproductive success depends on extracting blood efficiently while avoiding detection and retaliation. Hosts that notice too quickly may swat, crush, or flee, cutting short the feeding. Stealth, therefore, is as important as efficiency. The ecological consequences of this feeding behavior are complex. Mosquitoes have become vectors for some of the most devastating diseases known to humans: malaria, dengue, Zika, West Nile virus, and many others. The very efficiency of their feeding apparatus, combined with their saliva's ability to modulate host immune responses, makes them ideal carriers for pathogens. Parasites and viruses exploit the wound, hitching a ride from host to host in the bloodstream. In this way, an adaptation meant for reproduction has reshaped the health of entire civilizations. Human history has been written as much by mosquito-borne diseases as by wars and politics, with malaria alone influencing settlement patterns, agriculture, and even genetic evolution, favoring traits like sickle cell resistance in some populations. Yet to reduce the mosquito solely to its role as disease vector is to miss the deeper marvel of its biology. Its proboscis has become a model for technological innovation. Engineers developing microneedles for painless injections study the mosquito's stillets for clues. By mimicking the saw-like motion and tapered geometry of the maxillae, researchers aim to create needles that slip through skin without triggering pain receptors. Experiments have shown that textured or vibrating microneedles, modeled on mosquito mouthparts, can deliver drugs or vaccines with reduced discomfort. The hypodermic syringe, a crude tube compared to the mosquito's tool, may one day be replaced by devices inspired by what we now swat away. The mosquito's feeding also reveals insights into sensory biology. Studies show that they can detect body heat, carbon dioxide, and even subtle chemical cues from skin microbiomes to locate hosts. Once landed, their antennae and proboscis hairs sense microscale differences in texture and temperature, guiding them toward capillaries. This multisensory integration, combining long-range cues with fine tactile exploration, exemplifies how insects navigate complex environments. For robotics and medical devices, the principle is clear. Combine broad detection with precise local sensors to achieve efficiency without excess power. Predators remind us that mosquitoes are not invincible. Bats, dragonflies, fish, frogs, and even other insects prey heavily upon them. Their vast numbers, however, ensure survival despite heavy predation. Some ecosystems even depend on mosquito larvae as key sources of food for aquatic species. Their role as prey underscores a paradox. Though feared and despised by humans, mosquitoes are woven into food webs as essential biomass. Remove them entirely, and countless species would lose a foundation of their diet. The challenge lies not in eradication but in control, limiting their role as vectors, while preserving their role as ecological participants. Behavioral strategies further enhance their efficiency. Mosquitoes often approach from behind, landing on ankles, elbows, or the back of the neck where hosts are less attentive. They tend to feed during times of low vigilance, dusk, dawn, or the deep hours of night. Their lightweight bodies distribute force so finely that many bites go unnoticed until the insect has already departed. These behaviors illustrate how anatomy and strategy converge, producing a survival system based on deception and precision. In a broader sense, the mosquito's proboscis demonstrates how evolution solves engineering problems. Piercing skin without pain, maintaining flow without clots, and withdrawing without detection. Each step is a challenge that humans, with all their tools, struggle to replicate. Yet nature achieves it with proteins, chitin, and hair-like sensors, powered by muscles smaller than dust grains. What seems to us a trivial annoyance is in fact a masterpiece of biomechanical innovation. As night deepens, the whine fades into silence, and the mosquito departs, abdomen swollen with its red harvest. Behind it, only a small welt marks the encounter, evidence of a transaction that has repeated across millions of years and countless species. In that welt lies a story of survival, of disease, of innovation, and of future technology waiting to be unlocked. For while the mosquito may remain our bane, its microneedle may also guide us toward painless medicine and energy-efficient devices. The irony is sharp. The creature most cursed for its intrusion into human lives may also offer relief from one of medicine's most enduring discomforts. The next generation of vaccines, insulin treatments, or intravenous therapies may bear the legacy of an insect we have long sought to destroy. In its proboscis, we glimpse not only the persistence of evolution, but the potential for biomimicry to transform irritation into inspiration. In the silence after its departure, the lesson lingers. Survival in the insect world is rarely about brute force. It is about precision, efficiency, and subtlety, the ability to slip unnoticed into another being's defenses and extract what is needed without alarm. The mosquito embodies this principle with elegance we are only beginning to appreciate. And in that elegance, irritating though it may be, lies the promise of technology shaped by nature's quietest surgeons.